We are back. It's time to talk about the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Always an interesting team to talk about because they're always very inflated because it's the Chiefs. And then you start doing the math and it's like, how are all these players going to, are they going to have 10,000 yards of offense or something? But not as much this year, which is kind of interesting to talk about. But, just so you know, this is recorded on August 4th. You're probably listening to this in mid-August. Keep that in mind. If there's an injury to one of these guys and we don't bring it up. And all the numbers you see here are in half PPR, as you'll see, ADP, points per game, and all that. And then it starts off with Patrick Mahomes, who is the best quarterback in the league. There's no questions there. He's probably going to be a top 5 quarterback in fantasy. Although last year he was 12th per game, which just shows you even Patrick Mahomes can be human in terms of his fantasy production. And that's always the risk when you get these non-rushing quarterbacks, which Patrick Mahomes, he's a little bit more. He does rush the ball a bit. He'll give you 350 to 400 yards on the ground. But these guys that don't have that floor at quarterback position, this is why I'm hesitant to draft the pocket passer guys, the Burrows, the Herberts that are going that high, last year in particular and stuff like that. So, but I don't think there's much to talk about here. He's the QB2. It's funny though. It says ADP 36 round 3. He's definitely going in most of your leagues. He's definitely going before that. People they see the name. We even for fantasy football, we think all we hear about is quarterbacks in the NFL, and so that translates to fantasy football. Someone's going to take quarterbacks in the second round for sure, and Patrick Mahomes will be. I don't think he lasts until the end of the third round, but I'm not going to take him, but I'm not going to argue with anyone that wants to take him. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Dad.
Yeah, we attribute this guy to winning and stuff like that. So, I mean, and last year was a different year, for sure, and he only 4,100 yards and 27 touchdowns. And you go, wow, is that bad? Well, yeah, the year before he had 5,200 yards and 41 touchdowns. So, I mean, you could tell, everybody commented about everybody and their grandmother commented about the Kansas City, the wide receiver issues or something like that, but they still won the damn Super Bowl. And his rushing totals was the highest in his career. He had 389 yards. He didn't have any touchdowns, but so things were a little off last year, I guess, but the hell, they won the Super Bowl. So
yeah, I mean, if you drafted Mahomes last year, you probably lost because of it, because you took him in the second round, most likely, and he was QB 12. Like, if you're taking him in the second round, you need him to be 2022, 2021 Mahomes, like you do. So, and is that possible? Absolutely. Like, yeah, he can throw 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. So, but yeah, again, not a whole lot to say here. Now, I think an interesting topic here is Isaiah Pacheco, who, came on the scenes in 2022, was obviously kind of splitting time there with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and things like that. 7.6 points per game in 2022. Then last year he kind of took over. Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire was no good. Jerick McKinnon was kind of beat up all year, and they didn't really use him last year. Jerick McKinnon played in 12 games, but only 25 catches, 20 carries. Like, they just weren't really using him, and it kind of became Pacheco's backfield. And because of that, you saw 45 catches. You saw the 9 total touchdowns. Obviously he had almost 1,000 yards rushing. But now he's basically a 2-3 turn player. So he's a fringe round 2 in half PPR again, early round 3. So he's a late round 2, early round 3 player. I don't know what it is. I can't bring myself to be in on that. I don't know why. I could be wrong. I could have egg on my face at the end of the year. This could be like my ETN from last year, which I was kind of low on ETN, and then he finished obviously top 6. I don't really know. I don't think he's a talented pass catcher. I know he had 45 catches, and there's possibility for that again, because if he's going to play 65% of the snaps, 70% of the snaps, he's going to catch 2-3 dump offs. That's just what's going to happen. And you add up, you don't think 2-3 dump offs are a lot, but then you add up 2.5 catches per game, and that gives you 43 catches in a 17-game season, which is essentially what he did last year. But he was not good with it. 5.5 yards per reception out of 60 running backs, qualifying running backs last year. He was 52nd in yards after reception, which generally shows you how good of a pass catcher you are. Guys like Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler average 8.5 yards per catch. The talented pass catchers. ETN, who we just talked about, 8.2. Antonio Gibson, 8.1. Aaron Jones, 7.8. Breece Hall, 7.8. These guys that we kind of associate with being good pass catching running backs. What's interesting, Clyde Edwards-Helaire actually led the NFL at 11.1 for running backs. But I guess that's my concern. I don't think he's a talented pass catcher, so I could see them working in someone to be the pass catching running back. Chiefs are always weird around the goal line. Like, they always do funny things, and I don't think they're just going to, hand him the ball all the time at the goal line. I think they're going to try and pass the ball more because you have Patrick Mahomes, and that's what they want to do. So they obviously relied on the run a little bit more last year. And so I could see maybe slightly his carries, staying the same, around 15 carries a game. So I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, Dad. Am I? Convince me I'm wrong about.
Well, okay. So I understand the hesitation here. Let's face it. This guy came out of nowhere. His rookie year. He was not a big name running back. He's a running back on a big name offense. So I mean, and he got better last year than his rookie year. He's involved with the passing game, and I think I don't know, like you said, at the 2-3 turn, I guess I'd feel a little squeamish about that too. But I think this guy's it's probably going to be his best year. So, as far as yards and stuff like that, is it going to be better than last year? I think so. I mean, there isn't too many guys behind him that really in their depth chart that make you feel like, that Pacheco is going to be sitting on his rear end or anything during the game. So,
yeah, no, I agree with that. I do. I mean, do you see more than, so he basically averaged 15 carries a game last year. That's what he was averaging. Do you see that going up or staying the same?
No, I see. That's a pretty good number. So
okay.
I would say 15 carries a game for Pacheco. That seems pretty good.
So if he does that, so then we're probably looking at about 1,150 to 1,200 yards rushing, which is really good. But to justify a early third, late second round pick, you got to do a little bit more, either touchdowns or receptions. What's he gonna get, right? So yeah, I guess that's just where I'm a little bit worried about. So he gets 115 points there, even if he catches 45 passes or so. We're looking at about 140 half PPR points. Is he going to get double-digit touchdowns? I don't think that's a lock, even though he's on a good offense. Like, that's just not how the Chiefs operate at the goal line. They just do so many weird things, and they want Patrick Mahomes to be the star because he is a star. So I I don't know. I'm just a little bit concerned about like the upside. Like I think we're kind of drafting him at his absolute peak, which is like RB11, and I I guess it's good to look at like who's going around Pacheco. So you got Achane or Pacheco. Who do you want there? It's kind of a tough one.
I think Pacheco.
Yeah, that's fair. Pacheco or Jacobs?
Wow, Jacobs is going to get a lot of carries, I think, and what they're going to turn out to be. I think I might Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
He's more of a traditional running back, I think, especially with a team like Green Bay.
Yeah.
Just going back many years ago. So
yeah.
I'm kind of worried about Josh Jacobs, though. But anyway, so
Pacheco or Chris Olave?
Wow, Olave. We hold him in high regards as a wide receiver, and I think I got to go with Olave.
And then last one, Pacheco or Deebo Samuel?
I think maybe Pacheco.
Yeah, for me, I think it was all the other guys there. Achane, I think you can make an argument because like there's a lot of risk in Achane, and generally you want to limit risks as much as possible in your first 3-4 picks. But the other guys, I think I'm taking. Jacobs is an interesting one, but Olave, Deebo, guys like that. But it's an interesting conversation. I think I'm going to be out. I could be wrong. I'm totally acknowledging that, but I just feel like I'd be very surprised if he's better than RB11, much better than RB11 per game. Like if he sneaks into that RB 7-8 or something, I'd be a little bit surprised. So, no one else a whole lot to talk about here. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire still there. There was that update that came out a couple of weeks ago that Deneric Prince was actually like the guy who was with the first team offense when Pacheco wasn't out there. So there's a chance that Deneric Prince is something with kind of a deep dynasty stash, but those are kind of waiver wire guys, I think. The receivers are interesting because there's 3 guys that are all back to back essentially. You have Marquise Brown is actually first, ADP 80th overall, round 7, a wide receiver 36. Rashee Rice is next at ADP 88, round 8, wide receiver 38. And then Xavier Worthy, ADP 95, round 8, wide receiver 41. So in terms of their wide receiver rankings, you got 36 to 41. You have 3 wide receivers from the Chiefs. Basically, us saying we don't know what the hell what's going to happen. Now, I don't know if Rashee Rice is going to get suspended, at least to begin the year. So I would imagine if we're drafting on Labor Day, that Rashee Rice is actually going to be the number 1 guy. And should he be the number 1 guy if he's not suspended, in your opinion, in half PPR? Because I think he should be. But do you think he should be the number 1 receiver taken if he's not suspended?
I kind of think I'm kind of leaning towards Hollywood Brown, to tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Rice, I mean, their wide receiver situation should have changed a lot from last year, and so I mean, Hollywood Brown is I think he's been a volume receiver before, so catching a lot of passes and stuff like that. He's not going to be just the over the top guy or anything like that, but I don't know. Rice is obviously is right behind him. I mean, they're close. So, but I think that's you got to pick one. You got to pick 1, 2, and 3. So, I mean, Hollywood Brown would be my 1, and then Rice would be number 2.
Yeah, I think that's fair. a lot of Rashee Rice's stats last year were a little bit, I think, not as sustainable, I guess, specifically like the yards after catch. Like he had 938 total yards. I think like 700 of them were after the catch. It was ridiculous. Like his ADOT was really, really low at 4.8, which is incredibly low for a wide receiver. Like that's his average depth of target. So 5 yards or under 5 yards is his average. Yeah, so I don't hate the Hollywood Brown thing for sure. I mean, he has had stretches like you mentioned that I'm just pulling it up now. Weeks 1 through 6 last year, he had 53 targets in 6 games. So that's a lot of targets. That's what, 8 or 9 targets a game. Just to go back to what you're saying, he's not just like this field stretching type of player. His first 6 games in 2022, he had 64 targets in 6 games, so over 10 a game. So yeah, he's had stretches of really good play, and then he gets hurt or his quarterback gets hurt. So I don't hate it. They're also like going to basketball games together and stuff like that. So they might be best friends. So there's definitely value right here. What about Worthy? What's your opinion on Xavier Worthy this year? I didn't make a thing for him, but oh no, I did. He's right here. But he's going around there. He's a rookie first round pick.
Yeah, I think, of course, we know what the hype is about him. It's the speed and stuff like that. So, but I mean, I'm not drafting this guy. So,
yeah, just because
I could
he's
get
a rookie,
burned, but he's
just
still
'cause he's
a rookie wide receiver. I mean, there's other, the only rookie guys I'd be looking at is Harrison and Dunze and Neighbors. So the rest of the guys are, there's other wide receivers that I'm going to be looking at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I'm a big Xavier Worthy fan. I think he's going to be really, really good. And I don't think he's just this deep threat type of player that, people, John Ross type of player that people pin him as. But it is tough this year because if Rashee Rice isn't suspended, you expect him to potentially be the third target at the wide receiver position, unless he's just like really different and good, But I would imagine Rice and Brown both out target him. Plus Kelsey's still here, who could be the number 1 target, Travis Kelce. So,
well, listen to these backup wide receivers: Sky Moore, Justin Watson, Kadarius Toney, Mecole Hardman. All of those guys have been there for multiple years. So if Worthy tanks or an injury happens or something, one of these guys is going to step in. By the way, Kadarius Toney, I know we're not necessarily talking about him, was seen in video at the running back position.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. There could be some weird stuff there. There's some other guys to step in right away. Xavier Worthy isn't cutting it. So
yeah, and historically, rookie wide receivers do struggle a little bit with the Andy Reid offense. So I kind of get it. It is a lot of risk around this and where he's going. I'm just trying to pull up other wide receivers going around him. Obviously the other Chiefs guys, but Dunze, McConkey, Christian Watson, Keon Coleman, JSN, those are the next 5 after him. So you can make an argument for all those guys, McConkey maybe leading the Chargers, Keon Coleman, there's a lot of rookies, but the problem is, like, besides a Dunze, like McConkey, Coleman, these guys are potential number 1 targets for their teams, whereas Worthy is, I think, at best the wide receiver or the third target on this team, without injuries or suspension. So, yeah, I get it. I just think he's a really good player, and I wouldn't be surprised if, like, he just has a really good season. But he could just be kind of used as like that deep threat type of player. And maybe they use him that way. So you're Hollywood, Rashid Rice worthy, right? I think that's probably where I lean as well. Maybe, I mean, you can flip a coin between Rice. Rice could have suspension stuff later on in the year. I think his court date stuff is actually in December. So, maybe something comes out of that, but probably not. Probably not till next year. Kind of like with Kamara.
I mean, yeah, we're not. I don't want to trivialize his issues, but we're not talking like a major crime other than drag racing or something like that, and it's, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's drag racing, but then leaving the crime scene type of thing, and then something else came up.
Maybe
after that.
Maybe beating somebody up at a nightclub or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was something after that came up, and just like, what are you doing?
Not very smart.
Kelsey's the last one here. We know Kelsey's one of the best tight ends, maybe the best pass catching tight end to ever do it. Still doing it. People talk about the down year he had, and yeah, it was down for Kelsey. He was still tied for wide receiver 1 in points per game in half PPR. So, down year, but it wasn't the difference-making Kelsey of 15.4 points in 2022 and stuff like that. But now you're getting it at a discount in round 3 as tight end 2. And again, I've been saying, like, to me, there's a bucket of 4 guys that I think could be tight end 1. Really 6, but 4 that I feel confident in saying that, and it's Laporta, it's Kelsey, it's McBride, and it's Andrews. So if I do want to take one of those top 4, I'm going to wait till either Andrews and McBride go, one of those guys, which are going closer to round 4. If you want to take Kelsey, I'm fine with it. Like, I still think he's going to be very good. We saw what he was doing in the playoffs. They could kind of limit him a little bit because they do want to go for the 3-peat. But he still had 93 catches. He was still the tight end 1 in points per game with 5 touchdowns. And 5 touchdowns, and if you look at his stats, in the last, from 2017 to 2022, he had 5 touchdowns once. 12, he had 8, 10, 5, 11, 9, 12, and then 5. So he could easily just catch 3-4 more touchdowns. And, a guy that's getting 90 catches, 1,000 yards, and 8 touchdowns at the tight end position is going to be in contention for tight end 1. So, any concern with Kelsey? I mean, with the age, and he's going to be 35 this year.
Let's just say, we're not going to go back 2 or 3 years ago with him, in his numbers, but he played 15 games last year. And his targets and his pass catching or his receptions were appropriate for that and good. The touchdowns were down a little bit last year, so the guy was hurt, nagging injuries and stuff like that. So he's still a top tight end. Where'd you say he was drafted in 3rd round?
3rd round, yeah, beginning of the 3rd.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate, I guess, So, and, all the other tight ends that you mentioned, those, but Kelsey does not stand out like in my mind, he doesn't stand out like he has, before. He's not, before what? He was a top 10 fantasy player.
Yeah.
That ain't happening now.
Back there.
So if you want him, then draft him.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then, to say he's still capable of being Kelsey, because you look at the playoffs and he averaged 8 catches, 90 yards, and almost a touchdown a game. If you're getting that in in half PPR, like that's back to 2022, 2020 Kelsey stuff, you know, like that's 19 points a game or something. So that's capable. I just don't know if they're going to use him that way in the regular season, but he'll still be, you know, he's still going to catch 90 passes. He's still going to get close to 1,000 yards, in my opinion. So I think that's it for the Chiefs. We'll continue our AFC West kind of tour with the Raiders in the next video, which is very different from the Chiefs. You know, the Chiefs have Mahomes, Kelsey, Pacheco all going in the top 3 rounds. Raiders only have one guy in the top 3 rounds, but we'll get to that. Like and subscribe, and we will catch you guys in the next video.